Welcome to Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Kentucky Horsepower, the official podcast of the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association. My name is Kaitlyn Carlisle, and I'm the Communications Director at KADA. And I'm very excited to have with us today our new 2024 KADA Chairman, David Moore, of Moore Ford Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Hartford. Thanks so much for being with us today, David, and for taking on this new role as KADA Chairman. I know I speak for everybody at KADA when I say we're extremely excited to work with you this year so closely, and also very grateful for your participation and your service.
Well, let me just first of all start off by saying it's a great honor to be able to serve this year as your chairman of the KADA. I think that there is great opportunity right now in what KADA is doing and has done. And we can talk about that a little later or whenever, but if it's just a great time for KADA. And I'm really honored that I get to take the leadership on. You know, sometimes when you get the leadership of a organization or association, some are better than others, but KADA is in a good position right now. Actively, they are super active. You get into, they're financially sound now and with great leadership. And so if you haven't yet been involved in KADA, now's a great time. And I'm just thrilled, beyond thrilled, that I get the opportunity to serve as your 2024 chairman.
Thank you so much for saying that. We're honored to have you. And I really just kind of wanted to take an opportunity right now to have a little get to know our new KADA chairman for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you or knowing you yet. So I thought that we could kick things off with you just honestly just telling us a little bit about yourself, your family. I know that you grew up in the Owensboro area, correct?
I'm born and raised right here in Owensboro, Kentucky. We have 12 franchises now in the Moore Automotive Group. We started in 1919 selling Scripps Booth automobiles. My grandfather and his stepbrothers, it started out as Short Brothers Motor Company, and since then have continued to grow, added Honda. At the time there was Oldsmobile, and then we've continued to grow and to add lines since then. I got in, of course, I've been in the car business. When you're born and raised, you were washing cars at 15 years old. You know, before you could wash cars, you wash cars, you clean lots, whatever. In middle school, we were too conservative to hire custodial staff. So at night or in the afternoons, I clean toilets, and so clean their service departments, clean. So I have done every job that there is in a store. And as I said earlier, it is something that it is humbling, I think, to be able to start. I came back, I've been in the good fortune, let me just say this, to have worked with my two, I only have two brothers, but with two brothers. Don was here the first 27 years or so, 28 years, and which he's still very active. Let me just say this, my famous quote is, with a laptop and a cell phone, nobody knows where you are, but believe you me, he knows where you are. And we don't even have Life 360, but we still get emails, and so he's very active. The last 6 years or so, John, my younger brother, have been in the business with us. And so that it is truly a business, family business. When you talk about what a family business is, we have tried to live that. We still get to go to Thanksgiving dinners together, Christmas dinners. And so we've been very blessed beyond blessings that we have been able to go through. Now, with that being said, my dad had very few serious conversations. And with that being said, I graduated from Kentucky. I'm a University of Kentucky graduate. I graduated in 3.5 years, 1997, December of 1997, or 87, I'm sorry. I came back to the car business. I was living at home. I was getting married in July. I felt like I needed to get my feet wet and start. And so I did. And I came in one night, and my dad didn't, as I said earlier, he didn't have very many serious conversations, but he asked me to sit down one night at the table with him. And I sat down at the kitchen table because he always sat at the kitchen table. And he said, I want to make sure you understand something. And I said, okay, what I need to understand, and kind of, joking matter. And I could tell real quick it wasn't a joking matter. He said, you always have to have somebody in charge. So Don's in charge. And so as long as you understand that, there will be no problems. And so I've laughed. And so I went up, he fixed a milkshake every night at 9 o'clock. So he yelled upstairs, and I came back down, and I said, I know Don's in charge. But with that being said, even being a family business, that there was never a fact, even with John, even in today, there's never a who's in charge. And I think that's where we've been blessed in our business, and where we've tried to take that family business out and out into our, not only our community, but with our employees. I ran our body shop for 5 years. I'm basically a fixed guy. Sales are great, but I like to be more of a problem solver. And I've spent time in the sales department. I've been the sales manager. I've spent time in the F&I department. I ran our body shop for 5 years. I spent until 2000. I was our fixed ops guy. And then in 2000, I became the Ford Chrysler Dodge Jeep dealer in Hartford, Kentucky, and of where we still have and still active in that store every day. I do have some responsibilities. We've just remodeled our Honda store. We just a year before that, we finished a remodel, if you would, of a Hyundai store. So we've been blessed. But being said, I've been able to do there's not a job in the store that I have not done. I do, I guess, have that passion, I guess, to be the fixed guy, because I understand that when you buy that, whether that customer, and I'm not guy, girl, whatever term you want to use, it's just that guy. But if that person buys a $5,000 car, $10,000 car, $25,000 car, or a 75, and now some $100,000 cars, and they have a problem with that car, it's a problem. And it was always my feeling that if I could help cure that person's problem, because he's not happy. They're not happy because they've got this car, they're spending all their money on, and now they've got a problem with it. And I felt like that's really what drew me to the fixed side of things. And I also realized that selling cars is the vital part of the service parts and body. But in our organizations, in the dealerships today, those stores that don't concentrate on service parts, and some have body shops, some don't, collision centers, whichever term you want to use, they are missing out. Sales are nice. Sales gets them in the door. Service keeps them in the door. If I feel like if our guys did a good job on the service end, they'll come back and buy from me again, and from our organization again. And that's what I feel like. And what we've tried to do in our organization, and I feel like if there's one thing, John had a meeting, my brother had a meeting when he first got in, and he said, what do you feel like you bring to the table? And I feel like I bring to the table the relationships. I don't feel like no one in our organization is an employee. Okay. We all work together. And if someone's having a bad day, I want them to be able to tell me that. Every day I'm in a store, I want to go, I try to make it a point, whichever one of our stores I'm in that day, I try to go through and speak to everybody and let everybody know. My wife is a principal. She's been in the school business for 33 years. I read a book one day that I just picked it up. She was reading it. I picked it up, and it said, what makes your student do well? And I thought of that, and I thought, Okay. My student is our employees or our associates that we work with every day. What the book basically said was, if they want to do it for you, they will do it
Right.
for themselves. So I have tried in the last 35 years, I think it was 38 years, as a matter of fact, on December the 28th, I have been actively daily in the car business as far as the way I look at it. And I have tried to make sure that every one of those days that I have been in a store, that I have made the people that we work with in our organization feel like that they are the organization.
Mhm.
They are what makes it tick. And I think if there's one thing that I want to get or that's kind of what it is. My dad always said that when he passed away, he wanted him to be able to stand up at his funeral and say he was a good man.
Mhm.
Well, I've tried to live, because I heard that all my life. I've tried to live that same motto.
Mhm.
And I just want people to look and say, hey, he was a good person.
Mhm.
And I will tell you that I do cheat a little bit. I'm, as I said earlier, with a cell phone or laptop, nobody knows where you are, but I do spend a little time on the farm. I live on a farm and I spend a little time on a farm, and people have said, well, have you retired? What are you doing? Well, first of all, I wouldn't be the chairman of KADA if I retired. I can tell you that. Second of all, I tell people that, farming for me is like a drug habit.
Mhm.
You got to have a job to pay for it, in my case. But more importantly is I'm in the car business. I'm a problem solver. That's who I am. That's what I want to do.
Mhm.
And, if you have a goal, or if you have who you are, some consider the Beatitudes, or some, the love languages, or whatever of those things you get into. One of the things I feel like that I want to do is I want to be able to be a problem solver. If someone comes in our store, I want to be able to say, I can help you. Whether you have just been in an accident, you need our collision center, whether you have, you've got a 16-year-old and you need a $3,500 car for that 16-year-old, or whatever it may be. When you come in our store, I want you to feel, and that's kind of been the philosophy that I've operated under, that I hope that our store has operated under the same philosophy.
Mhm. Well, I think anybody who's met you can definitely speak to that. You're extremely inviting to speak to and to talk to. So I think that's very easily transmitted. And it's funny that you talk about, your philosophy, especially when it comes to like your employees or your associates in your dealership, because I think that's a topic that's really top of mind nowadays, is sort of, employee retention, sort of the workplace attitude, and ensuring, that the people that work with you are happy and want to stay there. And so I feel like it's amazing that you've had that philosophy forever, and you just keep doing what you're doing. And
it's all about the climate that we want to create. And I think one thing is the KADA, and that's kind of where we're going. But that's what KADA has done under Jason, yourself, Melissa. We've created that environment that when you come, you're going to get something. And we want it to be when someone comes into our store, you're going to gain something, whether it's knowledge we did away a couple of years ago with commission salespeople. We did, and we moved from salesperson to product specialist. And quite honestly, John was kind of into that. We went to more value pricing, where we go and we print out Kelley Blue Book, Manheim, whatever we can look. We want to be transparent with our customer. We want our customer to say, look, I don't have to go in there. They didn't mark their price up $5,000 to show me $5,000. Not that there's wrong with that, but we've just tried to become modern. First of all, if you don't put your first foot forward, your best foot forward, you're not going to get the call. With the internet today, people can go and look, and they know whether you're honest or not. And And we have talked about the last several years, transparency with our pricing, transparency with the way we work together with our other people and our organization. And I think there's something to be said for that all the way along.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Circling back to something that you said that I was hoping we could chat about is your farm. I was curious if you could share just a little bit more about that. I was reading a little bit. I think is it at like 175 acres or something? Wow. Yeah.
175 acres. And as the guy in the newspaper says, I went from cows to cars.
Yes, I read that article.
So, and last year during one of our conference calls, they were on me because I didn't have my camera on, and I had my earbuds on. They could hear rattling in the background. And finally, Joe or somebody called me out and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, it may have been Kim Huffman, but she said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You really want to know what I'm doing?" I turned my camera on and I'm cutting hay. So I do have, I have 18. Well, now I've had, last year I had 50, year before last I had 50 cows. I'm down to 20. I cut my herd down considerably. I do live on a 175 acre farm. I have I raise about 24 acres of hay a year. Every other year I raise a 35 acre wheat crop to feed my cows. And then I've got about 80 acres of crop ground that's tillable. The rest of it is in yards, woods, trees, and that kind of thing. And, you know, when I started out, I was, you know, I had life figured out. I was going to go and I was going to sell cars in the wintertime. I was going to farm in the summertime, you know, and life was going to be good. And my mom came in one day and she said, "Well, where are you going to school? What about college?" And I said, "Really? No, I don't really care. You know, I'm going to sell cars. When I got a job, I'm going to sell cars in the winter and I'm going to farm in the summer." She said, "No, you're not. You're going to school. You're going to college." So what I do, I go to school the next day and I call my buddy and I tell him, I said, you got a check for $100 in your car?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Go get it." And he said, "What are we going to do?" I said, "Well, we're going to send our housing into the University of Kentucky." At that time, if you had it in August 1st, you got supposedly the best rooms on campus. But at the time, in the mid 80s, it was Kerwin Tower. Or Kerwin Blanding Complex. So we sent it in. Barry and I went. We were roommates for 2 years. Then I 3.5 years later, I graduated with a ag economics degree from the University of Kentucky. And somebody said, "Well, man, why would you not get why did you not get a business degree?" Well, two things. First of all, when I got to campus, I would just as well, supply and demand is supply and demand. Whether you're talking about the price of corn or price of oil in the Middle East, supply and demand is supply and demand. You have opportunity costs, whatever those are, they're the same. But at the University of Kentucky at the time, you had to take a marketing 310 class. And basically what it was is at the beginning of the semester, you went to Kennedy Bookstore, you bought 2 paperback spiral bound books that were about 4 inches thick. There were nothing but case studies. You had to read those case studies. You went to class that, let's say, is a Monday, Wednesday. You went to class on that Wednesday. You discussed that case study you read Thursday, Friday. You read the Friday when you went back to class. You read the next. You talked about the next. Halfway through, one of those 2 books that you bought of the case studies was the test, was the midterm. At the end, you got the other. So I'm an okay reader, but that was more than what. And I had seen 2 or 3 of my buddies that I thought were pretty smart struggle in that class, and I thought, they're struggling. I know this little boy's going to. And chemistry never was really my thing. Well, as a business school major, now as a Gatton school, you had to have chemistry and calculus, chemistry, and you had to have marketing 310, I think it was. And I thought, there's no reason. Well, at the ag college, you didn't have to have chemistry. So it really, has, that's why I have an ag econ degree. And I like 9 hours having, my business, administration degree. But at the end of the day, you know, economics is economics, regardless of whether you're talking about what topic, you can relate it to everything. And what I have learned in the last few years is everything is basically an economic.
Mhm.
You give up something for something.
Mhm.
And I guess I've been blessed because my time in the car business, our successes in the car business have been that I've been able to spend that time on the farm. And when my dad got sick, I'll just tell you, I spent a little more time on the farm. But I'm certainly not at the point to where I'm out of the car business at all. I mean, I very, you know, deep down inside, I love the car business. I am all about, number one, selling cars, regardless of how much I love that farm. But I'm telling you, the car business and my efforts to succeed in the car business are what drive me every day.
Mhm. Well, that kind of leads into my next question. Where do you see, after having spent, you know, quite some time in the industry, where do you kind of see the car industry going moving forward?
Well, immediately, being at what I consider a small town dealer in a small town. In Ohio County, Kentucky, there are there's 21,000 people. It's some say the fourth, some say the fifth largest square mile county in the state. Okay, you put Hartford and Beaver Dam together, you have 5,000 people. Ford, Stellantis have been very conservative. That's the best way I can come up with it on what they've allocated us. And my hope is now that we've gotten to the point that strikes are over, COVID's over, all these other things, and some people would say excuses, but some of these other things that have been hindrances are over. The manufacturers will begin to build vehicles again, and vehicles that people want. Because in the last 2.5 years, we've been very limited on my size store of what we've got. And it's been that way wherever. We have a Honda store, it's been there, Toyota store, the GM store. I mean, I'm not preaching a sermon that somebody else didn't speak, but it is, I do feel like that where the car business is we are going to begin to see these plants begin to build cars again. Mm. And, you know, electrification is the big word. That's one that I would love to have the crystal ball to answer that question. I have personally been involved in installing four fast chargers in 3 of our stores at a price of over $100,000 a piece. I hope, well, I know there's going to be limited returns on those. So I just hope that we don't look up in 2 years and we not have any electric cars. I think there are going to be electric cars. I think personally hybrid, whether it be plug-in, hydrogen. I noticed BMW is coming out with a new hydrogen motor, if I read the article right. So if I do feel like that's where people want to go. People want those hybrids. They want that 55 miles to the gallon car, truck even. And so I think that's where, if I have to pick a spot where we're going in the next few years, that's where I'm feeling. We're going to see smaller ICE engines. I feel like with much more torque, much more horsepower, much more efficiency than what we have. And quite honestly, there's nothing wrong with efficiency. Now, it does scare me to think that Ram's going to come out and have a Hemi, not have a Hemi that makes a whole noise when you take off. You know, now that bothered me. But I do think, and I look at Ford's success with the 3.5 EcoBoost. I mean, right now that's 50% of what I sell. versus a 5 liter. And I do think that, or my hope is that Ram Stellantis can go and get that same efforts to do that in their new 3.0 36 high output double turbocharged engine. I hope that they can achieve that same thing. I think the future of the automobile industry is very good. I believe that we're going to see somewhat of rebound of distance between new car price and used car price. We talked about just this morning in our meeting that we are going to have, that line is no longer. I mean, 2 years ago, a guy bought a pickup truck, put 15,000 miles on it, decided to trade it, cost him $2,500. Those days are over. Mm-hmm. So I think that with that being said, I do feel like that there is hope in the used car business as well as the new car business. I do hope the manufacturers will come around and quit just doing increase after increase. Unfortunately, we have two of the manufacturers that had the largest MSRP markups in the last 3 years, according to Cox Automotive. That's a little disturbing, because one of those built its name and pride and was a great line because of the way they were priced. Mm-hmm. And they picked up market share, and I just hope that they haven't lost that edge that they had. Overall, I think things are very good in the automobile business. I'm excited to be in the automobile business. Be a part of KADA.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Sort of speaking about the future and also some of the changes. Talking, EVs, or whether it's online sales or issues with manufacturers or what have you. I think that's where the role of KADA becomes really important. And I know that you spoke to this a little bit in the beginning, but I was hoping we could sort of like wind down with you, just kind of maybe sharing what some of the things that you've gotten out of being a part of the association. We're trying to make sure, that everyone, all the dealers in Kentucky, are members, and that those that are members are receiving the best possible resources. So I was hoping maybe you could just share what your experience has been in the association. Okay,
first of all, let me just say this. Our organization, I am a second chairman in our family. Mm-hmm. Don, some of you may know, Don was chairman a few years ago. And so I think that in itself talks about the importance of what KADA has done. I'm not going to say that, like a lot of organizations have gone through, that there haven't been some bumps in the road. But as I started saying earlier, KADA right now is, in my opinion, at the height of their history. And we have leadership right now that is equal to nothing that we've ever seen before. And what KADA has done in this titling thing, although if you've read your local newspapers and these people are talking about spending 2 hours in line to get their cars transferred and they were shut down, I'm telling you folks, move on. Mm-hmm. Because what KADA has, this titling issue is a huge bump that KADA has. I mean, you could almost say it was a mountain. And Jason and his team, and we have the lobbyist in Tom Underwood, Ryan Underwood. What they have done is they have made those relationships with representatives and senators in our state, in our nation, that have played a vital role in what we need to do to keep things together. Where there's things that have not benefited the consumer, KADA has fought for that too. And although KADA is the Kentucky Automobile Dealers Association, I'm the first to tell you that it ought to be the Kentucky Consumers Association, because KADA, everything that we do at KADA is to improve our services to the consumer. This year we have brought in major sponsorships of people that we've never used before, and it has opened my eyes in the last 2 years. I'm going to use, we have a group, let's call them out, Dealers Performance Group, and they have been very active in KADA. But what I've learned the last 2 years is what they really can offer KADA. And I think that's the big thing, that what KADA does is they go out, they build those relationships, and then they give you, as the members, those people to go out and the resources to go out and to use it. Where do you start? I don't want to say, as a dealer, I don't have to go out and reinvent the wheel. But it's nice to know that the wheel is round and it rolls better round than it does square. And even where we've had relationships, what I feel like that KADA has done is they have opened our eyes up to other relationships that we might be able to do or be able to use. But maybe more importantly, is they've educated us as members of what services they provide. And I would encourage you to, if that person calls, if Kevin calls from Dealer Performance Group, or V2 calls, or one of them is Aria, who does kind of like a LifeLock program. They gave it last year at the convention. I use it on my phone. I get an update every day. Did you spend $250 at, Pottery Barn? Yeah, I did. But so there are those type things. And then I get them that I say, it says, did you spend X number of dollars at, something? No, I did not. So although it'd be on my bill, and my credit card might call and say, they're checking every one and seeing the pattern. So I think, to answer your question in a long-winded way, KADA has done a great job, in my opinion, of putting group things together and making those things aware to our members. And I encourage you, if nothing else, you don't take anything else from this, meet Jason, come to a meeting, come to your district meeting, find out what KADA is all about, because it is a completely different organization than what it has been before. And if you were in before, I invite you to come back, because we've been in for 35 years. And I'm telling you, the KADA of today is different than the KADA of yesterday.
Thank you. Thank you so much for saying all of that and sharing your experience. I agree with you. It's a really exciting time to be a part of KADA. Thank you again for taking on this role of 2024 chairman. Like I said, we're really excited to be working so closely with you this year, David. And I think with that, we can wrap things up. Unless there's any last words.
I'm good. I hope I haven't talked too much, maybe just too long. But if you haven't figured it out, I have a passion for KADA. And my wife says I repeat things. And she is right. I do repeat things, but I repeat things that I'm passionate about. And I'm passionate right now of what KADA is doing. And more importantly, I am thrilled and honored, above all else, to be able to say that I'm a part of KADA.
Thank you, David. With that, we will end this episode of Kentucky Horsepower. We will see you down the road.